Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Happy July 5th. I'm Jenna Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. That's the guy, Nick Wright.
Good to see you.
Happy to all be here.
The lady, Jenna Wolf.
Yes.
Happy to see everybody.
Everyone have a good holiday yesterday?
Absolutely. It was great. Everyone in my family went to a barbecue, seemingly except for my wife and I. My youngest went off with some friends.
Oh, yeah?
My oldest went off some friends. Middle went off some friends. Wife and I hung out at the house.
Best kind of holiday.
It was great. It was a little hot dogs, some steaks. It was good.
Anybody overeat?
What? It was pretty good. C's eating clean these last few weeks.
Not a whole bunch of things I'm able to eat, so. But it was a good day.
It's a good day. Sensitive subject right now.
All right.
Our man C's new.
We won't talk about cleanses in any way.
No, absolutely.
No, I'm not trying to cleanse. I'm just trying to eat something.
All right, let's talk a little NBA this morning. We start the show with LeBron James
Can
and
my brother get a ham sandwich? Oh, I'm sorry. LeBron.
and his LA Laker vision board, if you will. You know how you put something you want up on a vision board? LeBron James put patience up there. According to Bleacher Report's Howard Beck, those close to LeBron are saying that his decision to move to LA was, quote, with the intent of building something long-term. He's doing this knowing that moves will be made this year and next year that will put them in position to start winning. This, of course, refutes the notion that he wants to win immediately, as in the first year he's there. Chris Carter, how long is LeBron's championship window with the Lakers?
Well, first you got to be able to tell me how long Golden State, as they stand, how long are they going to be together?
Depends on that.
Next summer, how well the season goes for Golden State. It's not about LeBron and the Lakers for now.
Right.
It should be about Golden State because they determine how long that window's going to be available. Does Clay next year, does he sign an extension? What are they able to do with the team? Does Kevin Durant, what does he decide to do? And a lot of people will be like, well, how can it be contingent on them? Man, you have to respect the type of talent that they already have in Golden State. And where LeBron is, to me, it's not that different than going to Cleveland. When he went to Cleveland, he said it's going to take some time. Let's be patient. And it's going to take the same thing. I do believe there is a window for LeBron, and I believe it's open probably for the next 5 years. People say, wow, that's a long time in the NBA. Yeah, it is. But LeBron has the type of body as far as his overall conditioning, his interest in doing things different to tweak that, his eating, all those things are lined up that I believe his longevity will be like no one that we've seen. And I believe in the next 5 years, there will be a collection of players that the Lakers will be able to add to their roster to allow him to have that window. But Golden State determines, especially in those first 3 years, is the window really open? Even though LeBron is there now, the window's not even open yet. So LeBron's there and the window's not open. It depends on what goes on in Golden State. When the window opens up, if he gets Kawhi, the window opens up immediately. If he doesn't get Kawhi...
Immediately for this coming season.
Did you see what LeBron did with those 4 pieces of paper that he took out there with the Cleveland Cavs?
They'll be able to compete
window,
with the Warriors.
I would say if he gets Kawhi, the window is cracked open for this year. I still think that the Warriors, even LeBron plus Kawhi, now that they've added Boogie Cousins, come playoff time this coming season, are going to have such overwhelming talent. But you bring up next offseason. Everyone focuses on Kevin Durant. Klay Thompson, where did Klay Thompson's daddy play?
Oh, Lakers.
Lakers. Where does Klay Thompson's dad still work with the team, or at least do sports radio? Los Angeles. That could be, it wouldn't just be potentially one of those guys leaving Golden State, but leaving Golden State to go to LeBron's team. That then changes the math entirely. But I'm glad you brought up the Cavs. Because LeBron's letter, everyone can read it, what he wrote with Lee Jenkins, the I'm Coming Home piece. He says, I know this is going to be a long process. I know it's not going to be immediate. But there are 2 significant differences. One is in the Lakers' favor, one is not. What's in the Lakers' favor is LeBron said all that about Cleveland and signed a 1+1, signed a 1-year deal, essentially. With the Lakers, he has given them the trust and security of, I'll be here at least 3 years, probably the rest of my career. What's working against them is LeBron went to Cleveland when he was 29 and is now coming to the Lakers at 33. LeBron has played 15 years in this league. He is already in unprecedented territory as far as productivity this late in his career. So how long can we realistically think LeBron's not only going to be the best player in the world, but call it a top 3 player? Because we are now he just had the greatest year 15 we've ever seen from a guy. I looked it up. There's only been 15 guys, that average more than 25 points per game after year 10. After year 10. LeBron's done it every single year, years 11 through, well, every year of his career, but years 11 through 15. So now we have to look for some precedent, even if LeBron's going to break it. Kareem was still a top 5 player in year 17. Karl Malone, you could argue, is a top 5 player in year 18. Kobe was year 16, 17, but both of those years shortened due to injury.
All 3 of those players were into nutrition. All 3 of those players, extreme fanatics as far as finesse, fitness.
Yeah.
So you could see the parallels with LeBron being compared to those 3 players.
And I think Karl Malone's the best example because he is the guy whose body type, as far as all NBA history, if you took their faces away and just looked at height, weight, strength, what guy in the league history reminds you most of LeBron? Great player. I think it's Karl Malone. Now, Malone was a little more cut up. Malone was an amazing fitness guy. But so you say Malone was still a top 5 guy in year 18. Plus, Malone went to college. So if LeBron is a Malone 2.0 athletically, could he get it to the 5 years that you're talking about? Could this go on to year 20, which seems insane? It could, but it's still, the clock is ticking even on LeBron.
This has been a great way. We started this show doubting Tom Brady. And then Tom Brady went out and did what he did. I don't know how many people...
To be fair, I started
there were some people that doubted what a quarterback can do
at
that age. We also started the show no one doubting LeBron James, but just questions like what could he do in this year? And I think both those guys proved everybody wrong as far as longevity in professional sports when you take care of your body and you really focus on fitness and combine that with the skill with which you're playing. I'm curious, though, is Kawhi the only player, CC, that you think could team up with LeBron so they would contend this year? Is he really the only player out there that's available to them to make this coming season a contending season?
I think so. I think being fair to the young roster that they have, 2 guys with tremendous championship pedigree in LeBron and Kawhi, I believe with the roster that they have now, if it's not totally depleted, yeah, they would be able to give Golden State and Houston a run for their money this season. Because Kawhi is that. Let's not forget how good he was. And let's not forget how good he's been against the championship caliber team. So, yeah, man, Kawhi right now, even yesterday we had a list of potential trade. I mean, Kawhi is the guy because the reason why? He's the answer to Kevin Durant.
Right. It's a matchup league, and he's the one guy. Why have the Warriors been so different in the finals the last 2 years than the first 2 years? Kevin Durant. And he's the one guy in the league, I'd say the guy best suited to guard Kevin Durant, right?
Yes. We heard announcers in the NBA playoffs talk about, well, Kevin Durant is shooting over a chair. Like, I hadn't heard that said as much in the NBA in all my years of listening to the NBA. But Kawhi, take that chair away. Because you're not able to post up on Kawhi because Kawhi is too strong for him. And with Kawhi's overall reach and because of Kawhi's resume, defensively, they're going to allow Kawhi to be able to beat up on Kevin Durant far more than other players are able to do. So that's the reason why I like the Kawhi-LeBron partnership.
Well, and so what's the best player that's on that list that they could add other than Kawhi Leonard? Damian Lillard. Thing is this, we saw LeBron James at this level with a player at Damian Lillard's level
Kyrie.
Run up against this team in the NBA Finals without Boogie. So throw Boogie out of it. Let's say Boogie never plays. And the Warriors 1-5. Now, Game 3, the Cavs could have won, and it maybe could have gone, but the Warriors were clearly the better team. So, Lillard would be an excellent piece for them. But to compete against this Warriors team, no. And you would have to add another. The Warriors have 2 of the 3 best players in the league. If the Cavs could the Lakers, pardon me. That's going to take a minute. If the Lakers could make it to where they have 2 of let's say Kawhi coming off injury isn't the 4th best guy, but he's the 6th or 7th best guy. Then all of a sudden, you can start to squint hard enough to say, maybe. I still think then you have Clay and Draymond and the other pieces.
Sure.
But yes, Kawhi is the one guy where you would say, maybe, just like Chris Paul adding to James Harden made you say maybe.
Kawhi is the one guy, but also when you look at trying to match up against Golden State, it's not only those two superstars that we're trying to, LeBron and Kawhi, just hypotheticals, but it's who's going to play those other positions because you put so much pressure. How much pressure can you put on Steph playing defense? So then how much pressure can I put on Draymond? That Draymond can't help off, and we need to have a superstar on the offensive end to be able to force Kevin Durant to be able to play defensive basketball for the entirety of the game. To me, I believe that's one of the ways that you're able to beat Golden State, and now they're just not able to do that. So he does need a superstar, but those other players, and I believe having a guy like Kuzma going against Draymond, with him being far more athletic, how it could stress out Golden State's defense, and they would see problems.
All right, let's take a break. We'll talk much more about this coming up. But on the other side, it sounds like Anthony Davis got exactly what he wanted when Boogie Cousins left town. Next, first things first. We are learning more about DeMarcus Cousins' exit from New Orleans. Keep in mind the Pelicans played well after he went down with that season-ending Achilles injury, losing in the second round to the Warriors. Reports are that if Anthony Davis wanted Boogie back, Boogie would be back. AD reportedly enjoyed the style the Pelicans played without Cousins, as well as the environment in the locker room. So, Nick, I ask you, you surprised Davis wouldn't want Cousins back in New Orleans?
I'm very surprised. This is...
Because it appeared they were playing well together.
They played very well. The beginning of the year, you saw, I thought, some of the best basketball either had played in their careers. Anthony Davis, I think, would be a perfect stretch five in the NBA, but he doesn't want to play five. Anthony Davis wants to play the four. He's been adamant about that. Teams want him to play, or his team has wanted him to play the five. Man, he wants to have a big man alongside him. And I know, because it's been well reported, that post-injury, but pre-offseason, Boogie was offered a contract by New Orleans, 2 years, $40 million. So what does this say to me? I think the Brow, who is amazing, may have slightly overreacted to that series against Portland. When they played, Anthony Davis had never won a single playoff game. They then sweep the 3-seed Blazers. They do it without Boogie. You see the best of Drew Holiday. You see playoff Rondo. Mirotic is playing well. It's like, hey, let's try to run this thing back. Boogie does have locker room issues, and there are questions about coming off the injury, of course. But the idea that Anthony Davis in today's NBA would not want his team to at least try to run it back with another top 15 player, that does surprise me. It surprised me quite a bit.
I'm not surprised, because when you're on television, you're a fan of the game. It's easy to miss on what goes on day to day. Obviously, if New Orleans, if all the reports were true, that everything was going great with Boogie Cousins, there's no way they're letting him go to Golden State at the mid-level cap exemption. There's no way. Like, there's no way you're letting a top 15 player, as Nick points out with him, leave out the door with no compensation. You were telling me, even when he was hurt, Chris, they got to sign him. He's a huge asset and everything. So, obviously, all that chemistry and everything they had in the locker room, that wasn't true. That's to me, that's what I draw from it. When a player like him leaves for that kind of money, and then now they're trying to, well, if Anthony Davis wanted him there, Anthony Davis, he would have had him there. So he's not there. So the star players, just like LeBron, Anthony Davis, get used to this. You're going to start getting some heat for other decisions. Well, why isn't Rondo there now? Well, why isn't DeMarcus there now? So I believe that people overhyped the situation, and they weren't there on a day-to-day, and Cousins started showing signs of the other places in the type of attitude he had when he was in those other places, because he's never been consistent as far as his overall attitude of coming to work day to day. He has not been able to master that. So I'm not surprised at all that they allowed him to be able to leave the building.
The reason I am so surprised is because we saw pieces of evidence that these guys had a really good relationship. Not just that New Orleans offered him the contract extension. In the All-Star game, whose jersey did Anthony Davis wear? Boogie Cousins.
Sometimes as a athlete and you're in a locker room on a team, you do things because you know people will like them. but do they really mean that much to you? Obviously not the way this planned out. I've been on too many teams. I've been in professional sports to see this happen. Like, that don't mean we're fond of each other. That was just a nice gesture for him potentially having a good season. So sometimes we read a lot more into those things than really are there.
That's fair, but I think it also should be noted that this report is not Anthony Davis wanted Boogie Cousins gone. The report is if Anthony Davis had pounded the table for him, they would have brought him back. I do think what happened is Boogie turns down that $40 million. The Pelicans then see once free agency hits, we can probably get him for less. Then Julius Randle becomes available, and so we're like, oh, okay, we might be able to replace some of that production at a much lower cost. And I don't think New Orleans, I believe New Orleans still thought they were going to be able to bring him back. No one saw him going to Golden State that quickly for that little bit of money. Right? Like, Golden State didn't even believe it. We've talked, like, when he called Golden State, they thought it was a joke. So I don't think New Orleans was pushing him out the door, but because they are afraid that Anthony Davis could leave in a few years, if Anthony Davis had demanded...
If they were afraid of that, why didn't they bring Boogie back?
Because, no, that's what I'm saying, is if Davis had demanded that he come back, then I think they would have. But I don't think this is an evidence that Anthony Davis wanted him gone. He might have been... with Julius Randle, with this, like, I don't think this is that we have any reason to believe that Anthony Davis said don't bring him back, because they did try to bring him back.
Okay, Julius Randle, he's not going to play the 3, right? He's going to be a 4, right?
He's going to be a 4, I would imagine.
So what's Anthony Davis going to play?
Anthony Davis going to have to play the 5 a lot. Or, they'll have an undersized, they could maybe switch it up offense and defense. But that's one of the reasons why I didn't think, from everything I've heard about Anthony Davis, coaches want him to play the 5. Alvin Gentry likes playing that fast tempo.
The signing says they want him to play the 5.
Absolutely.
By letting Boogie Cousins go, says they want him to play the 5.
The other thing that was reported was that AD had an issue with Boogie in the locker room, or had some comment about how he was some semblance of a distraction or a disruption. Do you think that happens with this Golden State team, that team specifically?
I'm very, very familiar with the coaching staff. Rod Strickland talked about how he was a coach at Kentucky when he gave Boogie the nickname.
Boogie.
Because he was boogieing in the post. He had a bunch of moves to his arsenal in the post for a young player. I know Coach Cal. I know there's a lot of people around Boogie who try to support him, and they try to put a good spin on it. But Boogie has struggled emotionally on and off the court, no matter where he's been. So I don't like to use the word distraction because people use that all the time. This is a real issue. He has a serious mental health issue that is being dealt with, but there's inconsistencies in his personality on a daily basis. So that would affect a team and a locker room.
I think Golden State is the team most equipped to deal with it because they don't need him. Golden State's the one team that could assign Boogie that if he is a distraction...
But mentally, though, is that really what's best for him? Because when you know a team does not need you...
Sure. What I'm saying is, if the question is, like, could Boogie derail what the Warriors have going? If he comes anywhere close to that, they can waive him. Like, they have no long-term commitment to him. Like, so if that does arise, they can move on from him. I'm going to add one other small piece that I think works in Golden State's favor. Steve Kerr gets a whole 3 months to develop a relationship with DeMarcus Cousins before DeMarcus ever has to deal with him benching him in a fourth quarter. Like, he's going to be at the practices, he's going to be on the bench, he's going to be dealing with Steve Kerr before they have those coach-player conflicts. That's due to the injury.
Yeah, I believe when they see the stat sheet, when he gets in the lineup, he's going to have a problem with the minutes, with the attempts. That's what I believe he's going to have a problem. All that other stuff, until he gets on the court, because if he don't get on the court and do well, he can't get paid. And I believe that's going to be a problem.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, you won't believe the lengths that Lonzo Ball is going to stay in L.A. with LeBron. That's what's being reported. More First Things First right after this. Back here on First Things First, we are going viral. Donovan Mitchell was in a festive mood for the holiday yesterday, tweeting, "Where's the barbecues at Salt Lake? Might just pull up. Happy 4th." Well, a fan reached out, tweeting, "Come through right by Coach Snyder's new house," with a picture of an amazing water slide. So what do you if you're Donovan Mitchell? You show up.
Oh, that's
Donovan,
awesome.
A man of his word, showing up to the Jazz fans' 4th of July BBQ, playing some Basketball in the pool, I love it.
How cool is that, C? How amazing for that fan in Salt Lake.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be amazing. 4th of July, man, the star of the team shows up. Spider-Man? I mean, my goodness.
He's doing like a tour, essentially, of the Salt Lake area, kind of trying to remake so Utah's always had a tough time attracting free agents, attracting superstars. You had Stockton and Malone, which was a perfect storm of guys whose personalities kind of fit that community. Since then, they got Darren Williams. He eventually wants out. He's trying to remake the image of that city as a whole. It's a really cool thing he's doing.
Looks like they got some drinks, though. What? They are in Utah, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a statewide prohibition. I just
There's
think
also a hand on a leg behind.
Yeah.
Questionable.
That's Jenna pulling the Chris Carter.
That's what Jenna saw.
Look at what Jenna's noticing. You're right about that.
Saw that?
Good call, Jenna Wolf.
Thank you. I thought that's what we were all looking at.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 2 women.
That is. Oh, I think that is. You know what? That is correct.
Are you sure they're in Utah?
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, we got a big move on. Time for stories to start your morning, brought to you by A.S., the helpful place. Joey Chestnut extended his streak of dominance at the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, winning his 11th title, scarfing down a record 74 hot dogs, buns and all, questioning the technique. He said, quote, "I found a vicious rhythm. I say, quote, gross." CC, do we start putting Chestnut in the conversation with guys like LeBron James and Michael Jordan and Tom Brady?
Oh, no, we put this one right up there with the biggest waste of time on television. That's what Joey Chestnut is. Absolutely. It's my pleasure to put him in there.
It's once a year. See, this is part of Americana.
It's tradition.
Now, I will argue this, though. I feel like the Hot Dog Commission needs to get together and do something about the water.
What's exciting about this, though? Look at this.
Listen,
what's exciting? Tell me.
It wouldn't be exciting.
Look what he's doing there.
I understand. Let me finish real quick.
He's double-fisting a hot dog.
Yes, he is. That is correct. We got to do something about the water, though. We got to do something. I understand the records will come down. It's like a juiced ball in baseball.
No, you have to. You physically can't digest it all without water.
Well, you can't be dipping the buns in water. Like, listen, I don't care if the record becomes 11. Whatever it is, I want to see it.
I think the digestion thing happens way, way down the road.
No, but you can't. She's right. You can't fit that much in without. I understand what Jenna's saying, which is why I think the water is a performance-enhancing drug in the sport, and I need it regulated. I need it regulated. Yeah.
To the NBA now, according to reports, real sports now for you, CC, Lakers head coach Luke Walton had no contact with LeBron during his recruitment and still has not met with James since he signed that 4-year deal. Chris, is this anything to make a deal about in any way, the fact that they haven't met yet?
Well, you have to realize, too, Magic Johnson about a year ago got tapped for tampering.
Yeah.
All right. So I think the Lakers are being very, very careful. I just think people are trying to build too much into something, but there's nothing there. At free agency, he met with Magic Johnson.
At 12:01 a.m.
Yeah, what difference does it make about the coach?
Well, here's the thing. People need to understand the timeline. He wasn't allowed to meet with Luke Walton in any capacity until 12:01 a.m. Sunday night. Right? Saturday night, Sunday morning, I should say. He met with Magic. By Sunday afternoon, he and his wife and his closest friends were on a private plane to Italy, where they are now. Like, he's in the same draft class as Luke Walton. He played against Luke Walton. He knows Luke Walton. Like, there was no time for that. If this thing went on till July 10th and he never met with Luke, that would be something to look at. He made his decision in days. Like, that's...
Yeah, he hadn't talked to us yet either.
Right. It's a good point.
We're waiting on that.
It's a good point.
All right, yesterday we discussed the possibility of Damian Lillard being dealt to the Lakers to team up with LeBron. So a fan asked Lillard if he'd be happy with a deal to L.A., to which Lillard responded, quote, "I'm typically a happy camper." All right, CC, could Lillard and LeBron compete for a title?
No, not just those two players. No, absolutely not. I mean, that's not an answer to what Golden State, but his skill set fits good with LeBron. He deserves the chance to be able to play on the biggest stage. I mean, he's a phenomenal player coming off his best season as a pro.
Pre-Kevin Durant Golden State, absolutely. This was the type of pairing we saw win titles in the league forever. A top 5 guy and another guy somewhere in the top 15. It's the type of pairing we saw win a title in Cleveland with LeBron. But the Kevin Durant era of Golden State has changed the math for everybody. You need 3 top 15 guys at a minimum or 2 guys in the top 5 at a minimum. So, no, I think he'd be a great partner for LeBron. But against this Golden State team, no.
All right, sticking with the Lakers, Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting that the Lakers believe Lonzo Ball's camp leaked news of a meniscus tear that could require surgery in order to keep Lonzo out of trade talks for Kawhi Leonard. Nick, what is your reaction to this report?
I mean, this is being reported by what I would consider the single best NBA reporter in the world, Adrian Wojnarowski, that the Lakers know this didn't come from them.
And that makes a difference as far as the credibility that we give to it, because it's very, very difficult to do a show 5 days a week, 3 hours, and you're responding to every single report.
Correct.
But when Woj and others say something, I can understand.
In NBA circles, if Woj, Broussard, Shams Charania has become one of these guys in recent years. I'd add Chris Mannix, Howard Beck. There's a few guys.
Mannix.
Oh, come on.
No.
But there's a few guys that if they are reporting it, Brian Windhurst, it happened. Like these guys don't get things wrong, and Woj is, in my eyes, at the top of the list. So what Woj knows is the Lakers know they didn't release that he had a meniscus tear. Mm-hmm. So who else would have? And as is the case with all these things, cui bono, who benefits? And if they're right, and this is almost one of those things, by the way, it doesn't matter if they're right. It's that they believe it, right? It's that the Lakers believe that this is in the realm of possibility for Lonzo and his circle to leak something that they didn't want leaked in order to make sure he can't be traded. And my reaction is Lonzo is in some dangerous territory as far as what people think of his value as a player compared to what people think of his value of everything else that goes along with him. Because I think Lonzo's a good player. I think he's going to be a very good player. But there's so much noise that surrounds him, and we are such a point guard heavy league that Lonzo can become more expendable than his talent should make him.
Yeah, I think it's he's in a tough situation because him and his family, they think they know more about professional sports than what they really know. And there's a tremendous misunderstanding to, does the league need him? The Lakers? Man, the Lakers don't need him. Like, as bad as the Lakers were when they drafted him, like, they were in need of a star. But now with free agency and with them clearing all this cap space, like, they don't need him. And they have the star of stars in LeBron James, who he's not going to say anything. I'm sure LeBron wants to play with young, talented players to help groom them, but LeBron can pick and choose. So not only from the organization standpoint, when you have the star player, I want LeBron 100% balled in. I want him to, Nick, you mentioned the letter that Jetty Osman, that he wrote about LeBron, and people kid about it and everything. But LeBron has had that type of impact on players, and Jetty's not nearly as talented as Lonzo. So for me, that's what I get concerned at, because as a veteran player, how much am I going to extend myself? You know, Randy Moss got 100% of my undivided attention. My phone was always on for him. Man, I don't extend that to everyone on the team.
Right.
Like, you like him and everything, but you're not going to extend that to him.
And Lonzo ain't Randy. Lonzo really good. But Lonzo is not a generational freakish talent. Like, and I don't know what you extended to Randy. I know I'm crossing generations now, but I don't think you would have extended it to Justin Blackmon, a guy who was a very good talent but had significant issues. Like, I don't mean to pick on Justin Blackmon, but I'm just a guy drafted in a similar spot. Here's the other thing that could be a shame of this if this doesn't get right. Lonzo is the perfect point guard to play with LeBron. Stylistically, great vision. Now, he needs to be able to shoot better. I understand that part of it. But stylistically, the way he plays, ball doesn't stick, unselfish the way LeBron is. Like, there are a lot of reasons why that pairing actually really works, even though there's a generational gap. But if you're all of a sudden proactively leaking things the team doesn't want leaked, because essentially what you want to do is undercut their ability to make their roster the best way they see fit, that ain't great. And I don't know that Lonzo did this, but I do know that the Lakers think he did this. And so that ain't great.
And was Rondo brought in to maybe take some playing time, or to be in there until Lonzo is ready to come in? And
there's a lot of ways you can look at it. Was Rondo brought in as insurance? Was Rondo brought in as a replacement? Was Rondo brought in as a response to the Lakers believing this. Like, there's maybe all of the
When you
above.
have a young point guard like Lonzo, you need a veteran, and you'd like to have a guy that's got some experience starting, some experience in the playoffs. That's what happens who Rondo is. Now, what they've done with their insurance is if you get hurt, you have another starter. If you have some other type of issues, you do have another. The Lakers are trying to fill out their roster. And Rondo is the great complement to Lonzo being a young and up-and-coming point guard.
All right.
And they're trying to fill out their roster with guys that'll take one-year deals, so they stay open for next offseason. So
Lance
it's a
Stevenson,
smaller
Rondo,
JaVale,
JaVale
KCP.
McGee.
Yep.
All right, let's talk NFL. The anticipation very different for the young guys coming in than it is for the veterans coming in. There's mental prep, there's physical prep, there's prepositional phrases. It's also those things. Ben Roethlisberger thinks he has to be careful at the start of this season, saying, quote, "It's a fine line I walk at this age of resting and getting my body enough rest for the season and of working out to prepare." Cece, how important is the offseason for older stars like Big Ben?
I mean, it's very important. I mean, Ben, he ain't spending a whole bunch of time in the gym, though. I mean, let's do his comments. His comments don't even make sense. Oh, I need to be careful. I need to tread lightly. I need to make sure I jump gracefully over those weights to make sure that they don't end up in my hands. Like, Ben is no athletic specimen. He's not going to be on the cover of Men's Health. Like, watch Ben. We should take a picture of Ben the first day of training camp, and we should take a picture of him the first day in December. And you're going to be like, man, what has that dude got in his mouth? I mean, cheeks swelled up. Like, that's what Ben has done. So Ben might play a long, long, long time, but it won't be because, man, like Drew Brees, he's taking care of his body. Like, he's into total fitness. It's not like Brady, where he's eating avocado ice cream and all kinds of other things that we see these legendaries play. It will be because God has blessed him, man. His DNA, man, that's what it says. Like, he is an old throwback NFL quarterback. I mean, he could play in the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, and he's a star in the league today. But as far as fitness, you guys are not going to fool me on that. And I told you, from 4th of July till training camp, what do you hear? Oh, I'm bigger, stronger, faster. I'm giving up meat. I'm vegan.
You're not even in the league anymore, and you started doing it.
Yes, dog days of summer. I'm bigger, faster. I'm trying to beat less of me.
Right.
But this is what you see. So you have to be careful in watching this. But I've been around this league long enough, and I know Ben Roethlisberger.
Listen, I said in the morning meeting today when you were in your office, I said, Cece's going to say something along the lines of touched by God or God-given gifts, something like this. Because here's the thing with Big Ben. We do this with whether it's white basketball players or black quarterbacks or certain things. There's certain guys that we assign traits to based on racial stereotypes. And if Ben were a black quarterback, we would hear a lot about how many God-given gifts he has, how blessed he is, and we would probably hear a lot more criticism of a lot of his off-the-field stuff over the course of his career. Ben has slid by because he's great. By the way, he is great. He's a Hall of Famer. He's been awesome with different teammates. But also because we just think, oh, okay, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers looks like Ben Roethlisberger, must be a hard worker. Man, maybe he's a great film studier. Maybe he's a great teammate. I haven't seen so many, as of late, great teammate examples. But you do not have to be a fitness expert, as Jenna Wolfe is, to look at Ben Roethlisberger and know this dude ain't no gym rat. This guy is not, and we see this like in other sports at times, but you can get away with being the fat pitcher or the fat first baseman. And obviously Ben Roethlisberger's gotten away with being the not in great physical shape quarterback. But him giving pre-excuses, because that's what it sounds like to me, is like when we come into camp and everyone sees everybody and everyone's in the best shape of their lives and I look the way I've always looked. Here's why. It's because at my age, you actually can't work out as much. What I want to ask you is, he's going into year 15. Like, I would imagine that's the time where you maybe could have gotten away with not working out as much early in your career, but later in your career is where it's even more critical. At least that's what I would think, that the older you get, the more critical the physical fitness and stamina becomes.
Yes, that's all true.
I was going to say, is it the opposite? I mean, is it that these veterans know exactly what they need to do? They need to know they do exactly what they need to do in training camp. They know how to keep their body from getting hurt. They know they don't want to push themselves because they know that at this point in their career, all that matters is Sunday. And so maybe they're not as fine-tuned and focused as looking chiseled and whatnot at the start of training camp because they know they just have to get themselves set and ready for Sunday.
No, Jen, that don't make no sense. You'll get hurt in training camp. Like,
I don't mean come in out of shape. I mean, maybe training camp's not as important as...
The thing about football that's different than the other sports is you can't practice football unless you're with the football team. You can't get 40 guys together and do a 2-minute drill. We actually call it football conditioning because there's a cardio, a gym conditioning, but you can't get that until you're in a football game. Being tackled, being drugged to the ground, realizing you have a play clock that you have to get back in the huddle. You also have to be cognitive. You have to be tired and thinking. You can't simulate those things. You can't put the pressure of the game, simulate those things in the gym. So, no, there was a day and age in the NFL where you used to be able to chill in the offseason and come to training camp. Training camp was 8 weeks. You had 4 weeks to get yourself into shape. But this new NFL, we had Coach Pagano sit right here and tell us, hey, man, you got to come into training camp smoking. You got to be running because there's less padded practices. These are just excuses. At this point in your career, you should have a system down, but also at this point in your career, you're taking away a few things and adding something new. At this point in my career, 15 years, I was totally weighing all my food. I was eating all natural products. I was shopping at Whole Foods. I was eating food in their purest forms. I had a package of vitamins that I was taking on a daily basis. I was fasting every Thursday until dinner. I could never do that at any other stage of my career. So what Ben is doing is making excuses. At this point in your career, you should have a system, but also you should be playing with that system, which we've seen the other great athletes do.
And the point you made at the very beginning of that, which is you can't practice football by yourself, is a critical one. If you're an NBA, Kevin Durant's come in the same weight to training camp, basically, since he got out of Texas. But guess what? In the offseason, Kevin Durant's added something to his game. His jumper's gotten better. He's gotten better at this. If you're a football player, the only thing you can do when you're not with the team is your fitness. I guess your quarterback, you can work on some routes and things like some throws, but you can't practice the game the way a baseball player can take batting practice or the way a basketball player can work on his jump shot. All you can do is work on your body.
That's all you can do. Last year, remember in the summer, we saw Hoodie Melo, but we also saw Chris Paul and other players. Lance, we joked about him being in the video. Man, at this summer, at the end of the summer, you can go to Los Angeles and New York, and you will find gyms full of basketball players playing against each other and up-and-coming young players, high school and college players. You can't simulate those things in the NFL. An NFL guy will not kill, but severely injure a college guy. So we don't have that intermix. So the inability to be able to get in game shape, that really exists. But you come to training camp now knowing, man, I got basically 4 weeks to be able to get my stuff together so I can make it through the regular season. But there is no art form. There is no exercise that guys do to prevent them from getting hurt. You get yourself in the best shape as possible so when you get nicked, it doesn't lead to an injury.
Great stuff. Thank you, CC. Coming up, Nick Foles with some harsh words for GMs around the league. Wait to hear this next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. Super Bowl champ Chris Canty is in the building. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Good to see you guys for having me. One more day until vacation.
I'm not buying that for the third straight day. No,
I'm serious, Jenna. One more day. That's it.
Listen to me.
Because you work both jobs tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
and then you're out of here.
And then I'm out of here.
Chris, until you are not here on the set, I do not believe you. Twice now I've wished Chris Canty because he told us a fond farewell, a great vacation. We'll see you again in the fall, to which he just shows up the next day.
He's got to go to South Carolina.
Oh, I started all. I know. I'm done.
Say it again.
You got to go to South Carolina and get in shape for the season.
Absolutely.
Right.
The long haul of football with what you do.
Only shape I'm getting in is rounder.
Okay.
That's it.
That's about it.
All right. Nick Foles has gone from second-string quarterback to Super Bowl MVP and Philadelphia legend back to second-string quarterback. Not the most common story, but it does have a fairy tale feel to it. And while most fairy tales end with a happily ever after, this one is just happy. Nick Foles says he's totally happy as Carson Wentz's backup.
I would love the opportunity to lead a team in the right situation. I'm not just going to step into a situation that I don't enjoy the people I'm working with. I don't necessarily like the offense. It's not fun. I want to enjoy where I work. I want to be with people that, there's GMs listening to what I'm saying right now say, I don't want a guy like that. Everything's got to be football. He's got to want to be a starting quarterback. He's got to want these things. And quite frankly, I don't want to play for you because you're not going to get who I am.
Chris Kenny, some would interpret those comments and say, well, Nick Foles just doesn't have the fire in his belly, that every guy should go out there and be a number one or fight to be a number one or have that within them. Nick Foles doesn't. What do you think about that?
To me, it sounds like a player that's self-aware enough to understand who he is and who he's not. And everybody is not going to be a starter in the National Football League. I think Nick Foles is a very good backup. He proved that in the 6 games he stepped in. When Carson Wentz had the ACL injury, the team went 5-1. He was able to win them a Super Bowl, and he got Super Bowl MVP. It was a fantastic performance. I think in a small sample size, Nick Foles is a good quarterback under the right situation with the right supporting cast. I think that 2015 season that he had in St. Louis under Jeff Fisher was enough for him to realize that he's probably not a starting quarterback that can elevate the play of everybody around him, but he's a starting quarterback that can do a very good job if he has a good supporting cast, and that's exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles had on offense. They had an offensive line that was probably playing the best football of any offensive line toward the end of the season. They had a complement of skill players that were able to get the job done. Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Zach Ertz, those guys. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles have done nothing this offseason but improve that. They drafted Dallas Goedert, and, of course, they've got that complement of running backs in the backfield. Nick Foles is fine in this situation. I don't think the teams or the GMs that are critical of him not wanting to be a starting quarterback elsewhere understand exactly what Nick Foles is.
Listen, he's absolutely right that some GMs would hear that and be turned off by it. But he is content enough with where he is that he can just say, I am not going to be fraudulent about who I am or pretend to desperately need something I don't feel like I desperately need in order to make myself the most attractive to all situations, because he knows from the St. Louis experience, as you mentioned, not all situations are great ones. CeCe's been adamant about this. Every starting quarterback job is not better than every backup quarterback job, right?
Absolutely.
The job he has right now, it's better than a handful of starting quarterback jobs in this league. And what the Foles situation has taught me is a point that you've talked about, forget Foles, for the entirety of the show, system players. How many % of players in NFL history do you call system players?
99%.
And Nick Foles is like a real-life, testable example or experiment for that. We have seen him throw 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in one system. We have seen him be so bad he was contemplating retirement in another system. And it makes me want to pause on my evaluation of almost anybody and say, okay, how much of that is their talent level, their drive, their work ethic, and how much of their performance is the situation in which they're in? Like, Foles is a great example that you could have such difference between performance depending on, I don't think he worked harder in one year than the other. I think it was the coaching, the players, everything around it.
It's harder work in the NFL when you're losing. Because what I've been taught since I came into the league and played 16 years there was that we get paid to win. You don't get paid to play. Like in college, that's different. You're getting a scholarship. You're there, room booked board. You're there to play. In the NFL, you're getting paid to win games. So if you're not winning, it is a lot harder. I mean, all the jobs are hard. All 1,800 of them are hard, difficult. And that's what people don't bake into their equation of, oh, man, if I was a backup, I'm telling you, I go out there and get that job. I don't care where it is. I could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Well, that's most people's reaction. But most people, too, they don't bake into it. Man, you know, I don't like to get hit. And all offensive players, none of them want to get hit. Running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, we don't want to be hit. And Nick Foles saw that in losing football games and playing on mediocre or bad football team, the quarterback pays for it. Like those quarterbacks, they have dreadful seasons. So is that fun to go to work? Maybe you're making a little bit more money. But every day you're on the internet. Every day they're killing you on Twitter. All the print stuff is about you and how bad you are. People forget that. Nick Foles is very comfortable. All right? Now, I disagree with you. I believe that Nick Foles, and he told me, he believes that he's a starting quarterback. But I'm not going to put myself in a bad situation because I can't win. And when you're not winning in the NFL, it is a different game.
Well, here's what I'll say, and I'm going to piggyback on your point about the criticism that he had coming off of that season that he had in St. Louis. When you look at what Nick Foles was able to do for the Philadelphia Eagles last year, his contribution to the team, first of all, Howie Roseman in the front office addressed the contract, gave him a little bit more money to reflect his production. But the pressure's off of Nick Foles in Philadelphia. He won them a Super Bowl,
and he's enjoying that.
Their first Super Bowl title. So he can take over for this team at the beginning of the season and hold down the fort until Carson Wentz is healthy enough to play football, and then he can resign himself back to that backup role. But Nick Foles is going to be in a comfortable situation just because there's not going to be a lot of criticism directed toward him. If they don't win another championship, it won't be because of Nick Foles.
But this is a good example, though, of the benefit you have at being content where you are, either in your profession or your life. Like when you had the opportunity before you teamed up here. You were weighing options. You were weighing decisions about what you wanted to do next. If it was always going to be involved in sports, but you had opportunities to coach. You had opportunities here. You had opportunities at other networks. You had opportunities, I'm sure, with the business you and your brother run. But where you were in a position of strength was you were happy no matter what. You were going to be fine no matter what. You weren't desperate for something, I got to go get it, so you can make your best decision. Nick Foles is very fortunate that the status quo is great for him. So he doesn't have to worry about trying to super impress every GM in football. He can say, the GM I want to work for is one that hears what I say and say, oh, I get that. And I still want you. Because that's most likely to be a situation where he can succeed. And, everyone can relate to that. If you're happy where you're at, you only take good opportunities. You don't take every opportunity.
But you understand what general managers are thinking, or some of them. You seem to want to collect a group of guys who want nothing more than to be the guy to win at all costs, to have that just absolute, spark and fire. It's like a comedian makes a joke and just wants to get off stage and be like, okay, I just want to end on the high note. Whatever I do, if I go back out there, it's never going to be as good as what I just did, so let me just stop. I think general managers, maybe there's a fear that there's a little bit of that in Nick Foles, and maybe that's what they're referring to.
Well, I can see where you're going with that, but I don't think Nick Foles' commentary is reflective of his competitiveness. I think Nick Foles is a competitor, and if he's in the right situation, he can be a productive player. He's already proven that. But he's got a great situation in Philadelphia, and he's not going to leave that situation unless he puts himself in a better situation. And it's hard to imagine that you can play quarterback for a more talented roster than the Philadelphia Eagles currently have.
And I think what he's saying right there is if you take those comments and you twist them, not you, but as a GM, you twist them to make it out that he doesn't love football or he doesn't care, then that's not the type of person I want to play for.
Okay.
That's what he's saying. He's saying that if you take those comments and you make them into a negative, then we're not going to have a good working relationship. Yeah. It's not going to be fun having you as my boss.
I want to work with people who know who they are, and they don't lie to themselves every day. And Nick Foles right now is telling the Eagles, this is who I am, and this is the truth. And that's the reality that a lot of people, most people, they don't want to live with that reality.
All right, we've got to take a quick break, Chris. We'll see you a little bit later on in the show. Coming up, is the window already closing for LeBron in L.A.? What? They just moved into the house. That's next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. NBA champ Antoine Walker joins us now. Welcome, Antoine.
Good to see you, sir.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Lots to talk about. Let's start with Boogie Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins, now a Golden State Warrior. We know that. But could he have still been a Pelican? We're learning more about Boogie's exit from New Orleans. Keep in mind, the Pelicans played well after he went down with that Achilles injury. Reports are that if Anthony Davis wanted Boogie back, Boogie would be back. AD reportedly enjoyed the style that the Pellies played without Cousins, as well as the environment in the locker room. So, Antoine, I ask you, could you see Boogie disrupting the Warriors' locker room as well, the way AD is insinuating he might have done in New Orleans?
Well, let me give you 2 points. The first one about, Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. I don't think AD, even though I know he's the franchise player, I don't think he has that much say-so on who's going to be the personnel on that team. They may ask him, but I don't think so. And then you also got to realize, I played with Paul Pierce. We played together 7 years. When Danny Ainge came in and took over, I thought I was going to be there. I thought me and Paul were best friends. But he couldn't stop them from trading me. It's not. It wasn't his call. It was Danny Ainge's call. It was the ownership's call. So they know that when they decided not to sign DeMarcus Cousins back, it wasn't on Anthony Davis. He probably would have liked to have him back. They probably were good friends off the court. But on the court decisions, they made an on the court decision based off DeMarcus Cousins' attitude.
Before we get to the Warriors part of this, I just want to follow up on that, though. But don't you – I tend to agree with you, but I also think that if Anthony Davis had proactively said, we have to have him back, I think I think he could have done – and I don't blame him for not doing that, by the way. But do you think that he has, because he's the franchise guy, that if he pounded the table and said, we have to bring him back, that could have impacted this?
I don't think so, because I think Anthony Davis would have won them on the team. You got two guys that went to the University of Kentucky. They spent a lot of time together in the summertime. They worked out together a ton last year to get ready for the upcoming season. Why would that change? He just got hurt. You had success. You were 6 games over 500. I would have been more worried about why you didn't bring Rondo back. Obviously, it seems like they lowball Rondo. He was making $3.3 million last year. He got offered 1 for 9 from the Lakers. Rondo's at a point in his career where he's probably trying to get the money. You know, if I'm going to go get some money, I need to go give me $9 million for 1 year.
Yes.
So it's a different stage. But I just think Anthony Davis does have some say-so what goes on in New Orleans. But I think in that decision with Achilles and what you're getting with DeMarcus Cousins off the court and in the locker room attitude, I don't think Anthony Davis could have stopped New Orleans from making that decision.
Nick, you know I feel this way. I don't feel like the players should have that great impact on who's going to be there. We're in a day and age now where I think the fans and everyone, because everything's reported, like we want the stars to be, oh, man, to pick the players. No, he's already got a tough enough job trying to be the star of the Pelicans, let alone trying to get into all this other stuff business-wise, who stays, who goes. Also, if you make a comment on who stays and who goes, when it goes bad, you know who's there to blame? You're there to blame. So I don't like the fact that AD is getting a hit for, if DeMarcus is not in the building and things are going well, and you do an interview and say, how are things going? Things are going well. He's not saying things are going better without him being there. People draw too many conclusions from this, and they trying to attach that story with AD to bring it some credibility.
And then also remember this. Anthony Davis played for Monty Williams. Turned his career around, got him playing good basketball. I made the playoffs for him. Anthony Davis was upset when they fired Monty Williams.
Yes.
And so you don't think he wanted Monty Williams to stay? I'm pretty sure he wanted DeMarcus Cousins to stay.
And that didn't matter. Yes.
So they make decisions on their own.
One quick follow-up on this, because I know you want to get to the Warriors part of this, or we want to get to the Warriors part of this. I also think that it's important to note that this was not a protracted process that led to Golden State getting Boogie. I do believe, and it has been reported by the people on the ground, New Orleans thought they were going to be able to bring Boogie back. They just thought it was a process. Boogie turned down their initial offer. New Orleans, I think they turned down their offer during the season, I should say. New Orleans then saw from the marketplace, man, we might have gotten lucky he turned that down. We might be able to get him for less. And then it was within a few hours, he is the one calling Golden State. So the idea that New Orleans was just flatly, nope, you're out of here, you're gone, we don't want you, I don't think that's the case. Now, they obviously
And how do we know Anthony Davis did not say, I want Boogie here? Boogie reacted and called Golden State. He had already signed and committed to them. And how do we know that?
And it was within 48 hours, too.
So it was within 36 hours, according to the reports. I mean, it was almost instantaneous.
The other thing AD insinuated was that talked about his locker room presence and what Boogie did as I don't even want to call it a distraction or disruption, just anything that was just sort of keeping them from remaining intact. Do you think he could have that same situation in Golden State where they already have such great chemistry and they're all veterans and they know what they're doing? Do you worry at all that Boogie could have that influence?
I don't think so.
There?
I think when Boogie Cousins called, I think Bob Myers called the ownership, called Steve Kerr, and called the 4 All-Stars and said, listen, we got a chance to get Boogie Cousins. This might be serious.
Now, how much money is it going to cost? Because that was the next question.
Well, that's to the ownership.
But I'm sure. No,
one of the players was like, wait, how?
Okay,
and then they find out,
he's gonna
$5
play,
million.
He's going to play for the mid-level. So they like, bring him. We'll try our luck. He's an insurance policy. If you look at Golden State last year, they were hurt last year a lot. They had to go deep into their bench and play the young guys very early. That actually worked out well for them when they got in the playoffs, but they played a lot of their young guys. They signed Quinn Cook right in the middle of the season, the backup point guard. So you got an insurance policy. You got a guy that's hungry. You're hoping that he's going to buy in. I don't know if he's going to be able to buy in. You got to have the right mentality, because now Boogie Cousins is not going to get the shots he thinks he's going to get. He's going to get probably 6 to 7 shots a game. Obviously, he's very skilled, so he'll be able to fit in offensively. I said this yesterday, defensively, he's going to struggle in the pick and roll. But that's only going to be with certain teams in the Western Conference. You know, Houston, Portland, OKC, those teams are going to put him in, they'll put him in a ton of pick and rolls. So those games, he probably won't get a lot of minutes. But for the most part, he'll be able to play throughout the season and give them some offensive production. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, you don't want to insult the man and not start him. So you're probably going to start him, but he'd probably be better coming off the bench where he can be featured and get more offensive plays. But I think he'll be fine. And if it doesn't work, they can let him go, Jenna. They can just be like, listen, you're gone.
But that's his skill level. What about his personality? Does that rub anyone the wrong way?
But if the personality doesn't work, that's his point, is they can move on.
They can just get rid of it.
They can just move on.
I mean, he's a high-tech guy. He gets after the referees a lot. He plays the game with a lot of emotion. He goes after the referees. Draymond Green does it. But their whole team go after the referees, so he fits right in that way.
Right.
And we should clarify one thing real quick. Anthony Davis, there's no quotes from him on any.
It was just part of the report.
There's a report
Absolutely.
that this is true. So, like, when Jenna said Anthony insinuated, like,
it's
according
through
to
the report. It's the same in the report that said
exactly
that
right.
he may not have.
Because we know Anthony
fought.
Davis, big fan of the show, don't want him watching saying, hey,
No.
ain't nobody got no quotes from me on
I'm
this.
mad Rondo not there.
Okay.
I thought, that's
He's like,
what I'm
I'll give
mad
you
at.
more issues, AD, not just that one. All right, Antoine, we'll see you a little bit later. Coming up, a Steeler legend with some strong words for Le'Veon Bell. That's next on First Things First. Apparently, Kyrie Irving has a case of just when things get good, I should move on. Helps win a title with LeBron in Cleveland, demands a trade. Now, after watching his young teammates reach Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals with him sidelined, Chris Mannix is reporting Kyrie might want out again, saying the Celtics should be scared that Kyrie is bolting after this season. Nick Wright, how important is Kyrie to the Celtics' future after all the guys you saw play and how well they developed last year?
All right, first let me talk about Mannix for a moment. Mannix is a great NBA and, oddly enough, combat sports reporter, boxing and mixed martial arts, but there is nothing he is more plugged into than this team, the Boston Celtics. So if he's saying the Celtics are worried, the Celtics are worried. You can take that to the bank. He works on he works locally in television there. He knows this team. And they should be worried. Like, they weren't on his list of teams. He gave the Cavs 4 teams. That's, what, an eighth of the league? Miami's on there, San Antonio's on there, the Knicks are on there, Minnesota's on there. Boston wasn't. And I understand he was having his deviated septum surgery, and it was odd to me he wasn't on the bench for that Game 7 after being on the bench throughout the playoff run. How valuable is he to their future? I would say, like, I think they have a handful of pieces more important for what they're trying to do. I think Jason Tatum's more important long term. I think given that there's less questions about health, Gordon Hayward's more important, and you have him locked in. And they've got this Kings pick that's unprotected except for #1 overall that could turn into R.J. Barrett or Zion Williamson or one of these guys Quentin Grimes. So I would put him right beneath that trifecta. But, yeah, I mean, if the Celtics are trying to compete with the Warriors, they need everything and more. And thinking you're only going to have Kyrie for 1 more year would concern me as well.
So you're concerned about him being with the Celtics?
Yes.
The Celtics are concerned.
Yes.
The reason why the Celtics are concerned, if he wasn't a great player, would they be concerned?
No.
No. So great players, and you're trying to challenge one of the best basketball teams we've ever seen. You need as many great players, not projects. You mean great players who can do it under the gun. Now, I have to disagree with you about Gordon Hayward. I don't believe he's more important because they got a couple other young wing players. They on their rookie deal. All right, we have shown under the highest stages, except the NBA Finals, which Gordon, he hadn't played at that stage either. They've shown that they can perform. They're more athletic than him. So I don't think he's as important as Kyrie. I believe Kyrie's important because of who Golden State is. He's the only one that's had success against Golden State. He's the only one with Steph that I'm sure puts some type of fear or trepidation in Steph to have to play against him in a 7-game series. So I think when you're trying to unseat one of the greatest basketball teams that we've ever seen, you have to go with as few question marks and go with, I know this can happen. I know Kyrie can handle the stage. I know he can run a team against that team. If we were talking about the rest of the NBA and everything, I'll be like, yeah, I might be a little more patient. But I'm talking about going against Golden State, because Golden State's going to be the team that ultimately that you have to match up against.
What is the team's responsibility? What is the Celtics' responsibility when you hear that there's a guy on your team who may not want to play there long term? Is it your responsibility to try to, I don't know, somehow talk with him, massage the situation, get him in there, get him happy? Or
try
is
to
it
win a title right now.
Like right now.
I mean, it's obviously what they're trying to do. Like the Celtics believe they're going to be the team that comes out of the East. CC's right in this regard. There's only 2 guys in this league that have had success in the finals at a super high level against the Warriors. One is LeBron James. The other's that kid. And if this is our last year with him, let's go see if we can duplicate that success. And let's see if making another NBA Finals, if Kyrie does reclaim his mantle as the most forward-facing Celtic from Jason Tatum, who I think took it while he was hurt, if that makes it more attractive to Kyrie, if that makes Kyrie more likely to want to stay. Kyrie is not demanding a trade. He's not asking. It is just the belief that he already has his eyes set on next season as opposed to the one that's coming up right in front of us.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, is Kawhi Leonard afraid of LeBron? That's next on First Things First. Time for stories to start your morning, brought to you by A.S.M.ith, the helpful place. Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting that the Lakers believe that Lonzo Ball's camp leaked news of a meniscus tear that could require surgery. He did it in order to keep Lonzo out of trade talks for Kawhi Leonard. Nick, what was your reaction to this report?
This is a dangerous game, man. And if Woj is reporting that the Lakers believe it, the Lakers believe it. Now, should be noted, Woj is not reporting Lonzo definitely did this. He's reporting the Lakers believe Lonzo and his camp did this. And that's one of those things where if your employer believes you did something, it doesn't really matter if you did it unless you can exonerate yourself. Lonzo is a good player, and he's a very good prospect. At some point you ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And with Lonzo, that squeeze is getting harder and harder.
It's 2018. The squeezing, you can't do that no more, Nick.
What? No. Like with a grapefruit.
This is what I'm worried about with Lonzo. The last report came out, Magic Johnson having a great offseason. Now we have this report coming out. How's offseason really going?
Okay, fair.
Point. Yesterday, we discussed the possibility of Damian Lillard being dealt to the Lakers to team up with LeBron. A fan asked Lillard if he'd be happy with the deal to L.A., to which he responded, quote, "I'm typically a happy camper." CC, could Lillard and LeBron compete for a title?
Not just those two. They need other players besides them. He is one of the superstars that we have in the league, coming off his best season ever. And him and LeBron's skill set match up. We'll probably get tired of hearing that. This guy right here, yeah, his skill set matches up with LeBron. But his ability to be able to knock down and extend the defense on the court from the perimeter, that's a pretty special skill set.
It is. I don't think, again, in 2018, those two guys would be good enough. And that is what is so frustrating to me about the NBA right now. That for the entirety of NBA history, a top 3 guy, the best guy in the league, plus another top 15 guy, that's always been enough to compete for a title. But the last 2 years, it's not enough anymore. Not in the new Golden State paradigm.
I wanted to talk about how many points he averaged and everything, but my stat guy just got here. So, so I couldn't grab
26 a game last year. I got you.
My guy.
Your stat guy sits right across from you.
Oh, my guy.
Sticking with LBJ in Los Angeles.
Who would ever have thought that?
Nobody.
According to reports, Lakers head coach Luke Walton had no contact with LeBron during his recruitment and still has not met with James since he signed that 4-year deal. Chris, is this anything to make a big deal about?
Oh, yeah, man. Really be nervous about this one because at the top of free agency, Luke Walton. No, I'm not calling Luke Walton. Magic Johnson shows up at your front door. So I think that supersedes the coach. Magic Johnson is basically giving LeBron James the message for the organization.
By the time the Clutch Sports press release came out, LeBron was halfway to Europe on a private plane, along with his wife, his best friend, some other people. Like, there was less than 24 hours from free agency opening to LeBron no longer being on this continent. Here's what Luke Walton should worry about. Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson did not hire him. So that's if there's any concern, it's that the power structure there, he's not there high.
They talked to him.
Right.
I didn't talk to him.
Right, but it's not, and he came in the same draft class as LeBron, played against LeBron. Like, he has a relationship with LeBron. There just was no time for them to get together unless Luke wants to go to southern Italy. It's nice this
why
time of year.
wouldn't he want to?
Yeah, private jet. I'm in.
We will end with some football. The Steelers and Le'Veon Bell have 11 days to lock down a long-term deal. Former Pittsburgh running back Jerome Bettis weighed in saying Le'Veon is, quote, not going to be as good going somewhere else. CC, does Bettis have a point here that Bell wouldn't be this great playing in someone else's system?
I like my Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis. Man, he's one of the greatest Pittsburgh Steelers ever, and they are really a family. As an organization, I'm talking about the legends, the players that have played the game, the Hall of Famers, the relationship they have with each other. It's really special. It's not like a lot of other pro sports teams that I see. The legacy, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, Mel Blount, what they mean, Frank O'Hare, what they mean to each other and how the organization does. There's some connective tissue there that is real. What JB is talking about is the Pittsburgh Steelers, their dominant offensive set is a 3-receiver set. So he has to dictate defensively, are we going to play a nickel? We're going to play a dime with 5 defensive backs, 6 defensive backs, which is a dime, or we're going to play a regular 34 front or a 43 front and make them throw the football. I'm going to put all my big people here, and he doesn't get that. He gets playing. He's running against a lot of nickel and dime defensive formation, so it makes it a lot easier. Not having that linebacker on the field and having a defensive back, but his forte is not tackling. That's how they attack you. Then if you put people in the box, they throw the ball at you. So it is a great system for him to be able to thrive in playing with 2 other superstars.
Listen, this is a very symbiotic relationship where both parties, the team and the player, are greatly benefiting from the other party. Like, the Steelers have benefited enormously from having a guy as good as Le'Veon Bell, a guy that can catch the ball as much as he can, one of the most patient running backs I've ever seen. Sometimes you watch Le'Veon Bell and you think, was there a whistle? Like, he stops, he looks, he finds the hole, and then he goes. And, of course, he benefits from being one of maybe the only running back in the league, depending on what you think of Matt Ryan, that has a top 5 quarterback and a top 5 wide receiver to go along with him. So if you ask yourself, if you switched Zeke and L. Bell, who benefits more? Like, well, Zeke benefits more, I would imagine. I understand they got a great offensive line in Dallas, but Zeke's dealing with a lot of 8-man
Both of them, the
fronts.
game is made a little bit easier based on scheme and some on personnel. Dallas being personnel and Pittsburgh being scheme and personnel.
Sure, so maybe I picked Zeke and they have that great offensive line. But
yes.
Leonard Fournette and L. Bell, right? Like,
there you go.
There's maybe a better example.
Yes.
Like, if you put Leonard Fournette on this Steelers team, he benefits enormously. And if you ask L. Bell to go play for that Jags team, which they spent some money on offensive line this year, but in the past, not the greatest offensive line.
And what Jerome Bettis is saying, he can't get those same numbers in Jacksonville.
Right.
Even though he's an elite player. He's one of the top 3 running backs, him, Todd Gurley, and Zeke. Those would be the top 3, but systems do make players. And he has benefited from being a part of Pittsburgh. And the other thing, man, Mike Tomlin is a dude I can play for. He's easygoing, but he's intense. But, man, he does not work. He does not work like Belichick, where if you make a mistake, they're going to cut you. He has a rope, man, and he will extend that rope to his players. Now, if you have not thought that L. Bell has not benefited from that, with his overall, the way he wants to be free and do the type of, he's into rap, he's into a lot of different things. He's able to do that without being questioned being a Pittsburgh Steeler. Is he able to do that in all other NFL cities? I don't think so.
And I'm not saying this is the Denver Broncos of the early 2000s where it was like, hey, former Marine, come in, get 1,000 yards. Mike Anderson, Orlando Scary, anyone, walk on down. I'm not saying it's that. But I did see D'Angelo Williams, who seemed to be on his last legs, go to Pittsburgh, and when he replaced L. Bell, average 100 yards from scrimmage per game.
Very effective.
And so, and D'Angelo's a good player, but he was past his prime. So L. Bell's absolutely benefiting from a really good situation for offensive talent as a whole.
All right, let's get back to some basketball now. There's a slight wrinkle in the Kawhi to Los Angeles plan. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, despite making it clear he only wants to play in L.A., Kawhi is now somewhat hesitant to join the Clippers and doesn't want to be dwarfed by LeBron with the Lakers. He wishes there were 3 teams there. So let's talk about what this means for the Lakers. Nick, does LeBron need Kawhi to win a title?
If he wants any chance at competing for a title this year, absolutely. Like, they're going to execute trade for Kevin Durant? They're going to all of a sudden, some of the Warriors going to retire? Like, and then what, James Harden coming over? And by the way, I think Kawhi's a better fit than Harden, even if I know Harden's the defending MVP. To compete for a title this year?
It's got to be Kawhi.
Absolutely. Like, this is, what we need to ask ourselves is, what do you need to compete with a team that is starting more talent from an accomplishment standpoint, from a points per game standpoint? They're about to become the first team ever to have 4 guys in their starting lineup once Boogie gets back that averaged more than 20 a game the previous year. Like, how much talent do you need to beat the most talented team ever? That's the question. And so is LeBron plus some young guys and Rondo enough? Hell no. LeBron plus Kawhi probably
might not even be
isn't enough, but at least opens the window slightly. So, yes, like, LeBron desperately needs, for this year, Kawhi Leonard. Next year, as you mentioned earlier, we'll see if some Warriors leave, see if things change. But for this year, it would be Kawhi or bust.
Kawhi, the window for L.A. and LeBron is not open yet. If Kawhi signs, the window immediately stays open. I mean, immediately goes open.
Yeah.
And for LeBron, the window will stay open longer with Kawhi than it would with other superstars, because Kawhi is an accomplished player, but Kawhi is also going to be in a situation that he's very familiar and comfortable with. He wants to play second fiddle a lot. That's his personality. He's not a guy that is a desire of the limelight. So when he came to San Antonio, he was able to concentrate on himself, and Tim Duncan was the focal point. He would be able to do the same thing in Los Angeles for 4 or 5 years. Him and LeBron would be a great combination. And then Kawhi would still be able to be a top 5 player by himself when LeBron transitions into what's next. So if Kawhi signs, gets traded and signs, the window opens. With Kawhi being there, because they're at the perfect age, 27 and 33. But the 27 is seasoned and has had as high as you can go in the NBA. Defensively, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. NBA Finals MVP, and he's got those personal matchups with the players that he is looking forward to trying to play against them. So I think it's the most significant thing. Besides LeBron signing with the Lakers, Kawhi, man, is the best fit. And if they get him signed, I believe they're going to have a banner. They're going to win a championship for the Lakers.
And listen, so now people have watched the show every day. It's like, man, so many Kawhi Leonard reports. Like, what do I make heads of tails of?
Listen to me.
Okay, well, by the way, Chris, that is not inaccurate. Like, Chris is as connected on this and has been from, if you watch this show for the last 6 months, basically since Christmas when the Kawhi thing really started. Like, wait, why is he not back yet? What's going on? That Chris has relationships there that date prior to Kawhi coming into pro basketball, right?
Yes.
And so what we know from Chris, and then if you want an NBA reporter to corroborate it, fine, Chris Broussard as well, that Kawhi wants Los Angeles. It is not Lakers or bust. He wants Los Angeles. Now, all of a sudden, yesterday, and I don't think this is what Shams actually reported, but Shams went on The Herd and said, listen, Kawhi wants Los Angeles. And then some people took that to mean, because he's be fine with the Clippers, he doesn't want to play with LeBron. Here's what I know. One of the reasons Kawhi Leonard was started to be upset in San Antonio, was he found out his Q rating, his marketability wasn't up to the level of his playing ability. Now, part of that's his personality, part of that's the city, and part of that's just overall fame. If he goes to the Clippers, I don't think he's worried about competing with LeBron on the court, but competing with LeBron for notoriety there and nationally becomes difficult. Become difficult for the most charismatic. It'd be difficult for Russell Westbrook, right? It'd be difficult for anybody, much less a quiet guy. Competing with LeBron for free agents. Until LeBron starts to track down, the reality is he's still the best player in the world. He's still the one guy that unquestionably can look Kawhi Leonard in the eye and say, I'm better than you. Like, Kevin Durant's probably better than Kawhi, but Kevin Durant can't definitively say, I'm definitely both ways better than you. So, of course, it would make more sense for Kawhi to want to be with him, even if he doesn't think he has to be with him. And lastly, it's always a bit of Clippers versus Lakers. And I know Jerry West is I believe Jerry West is a better GM than Magic. Jerry West is also 80 years old. And how much longer is Jerry West? Jerry West has bounced around the league a bit, going from team to team by his own volition, but he's 80 years old. So how much the ideal for Kawhi has always been the Lakers.
We talk so much about whether Kawhi would want to play with LeBron. From LeBron's perspective, does Kawhi make a good fit for him on the court?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because he can take the second, third, or if they got a duck, a guy who's not an offensive player, they can put LeBron on him on the defensive end. And LeBron is really great at roaming the defense and being like a free safety. Yeah, and he can rest on it. Also, LeBron's not going to lead the NBA in minutes if Kawhi's on the team. And also, what LeBron likes. The reason why we think Damian Lillard would be a good combination, because you can give the ball to Kawhi or put Kawhi in the pick and roll, put Kawhi on the box, and Kawhi can get you buckets. That's the reason, one of the many reasons, why Kawhi and LeBron are such a great fit.
And it's just this league's becoming a wing-dominated league. It's like it's great point guards and wings. Like, that's what this league is about right now. And these are not only two of the three best wings in the sport. Go ahead, C.
No, keep on. Say that
not
first.
only two of the three best wings in the sport, but guys that Kawhi is an A-plus defender and amazingly has turned himself into an A-plus shooter. LeBron is no longer an A-plus defender and has never been an A-plus shooter. LeBron, though, is an A-plus passer and an A-plus finisher at the rim. Those are the two spots that Kawhi has never been an A-plus guy.
Perfectly complement
So
each other.
those two jigsaw pieces match up perfectly. That's where, like Ben Simmons, LeBron, you see, oh, well, they have similar skill sets, similar weaknesses.
Yeah, there's a lot of things with the Kawhi, hearing a lot of reports and everything, but this is what you can believe. Kawhi, in communicating with his people, there's a couple misunderstandings. The number one misunderstanding was when Kawhi said L.A., that he said the Lakers. No, he didn't say that. He said Los Angeles, which included the Clippers. And there is no one that can get a quote from Kawhi or his people to say that he ever said anything about not playing with LeBron James or not wanting to play with LeBron James. So the Lakers, that's real. He will go to the Clippers. And people trying to say that Kawhi might be going away from the Lakers because of LeBron, that is just not true. That's a fabrication.
The people misinterpreted the fact that people thought when LeBron got there, if Kawhi wasn't already only looking at the Lakers, that LeBron getting there made it to where that was the only place he would go. That wasn't true. People misconstrued that to mean, oh, that must mean he doesn't want to be there, which was never the case.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, back to football. Is Big Ben Roethlisberger talking retirement yet again? That's next on First Things First. NFL season right around the corner means different things for different players. Ben Roethlisberger, entering his 15th season, has considered retirement a total of 3,000 times in the last 2 years. Now says he has to be careful at the start of the season, saying, quote, "It is a fine line I walk at this age of resting, getting my body enough rest for the season, and of working out to prepare." Chris Caney, you laugh. Tell me why, A, and B, how important is the offseason for older stars like Big Ben?
No, I'm laughing because NFL players know that it's a little bit different in terms of how you have to train when you get older. You work smarter, not harder, but the preparation feels harder in terms of the effort that you have to exert just to make sure that you're ready to go for the season. But nobody could ever accuse Ben Roethlisberger of being a gym rat. And Nick, I heard you say that earlier. He's never been the guy that you say, man, he prepares in the offseason like no other. He's got one of the best work ethics in the league. He's never been that type of quarterback. But what he has been able to do is a good job of extending plays, being able to shrug off defenders and buy time for his receivers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers receivers and Ben Roethlisberger run the scramble drill as about as good as anybody in the NFL. But when I hear the comments that Big Ben is making, I'm thinking to myself, with a quarterback that's getting up there in age, his window and the Steelers' window for competing for a championship is starting to close. So you got to think about making sure that your quarterback is ready to go week one when the season kicks off. This can't be a situation where he's trying to work himself into shape. He's got to be ready to go as soon as the season kicks off, just because of the expectations that the Steelers have on the 2018 season.
Listen, Ben's been an amazing player in this league and dealt with a lot of punishment and been, relatively speaking, durable. Never suffered a enormous injury in his career. Now, he misses games, seemingly misses a game or two most years, but we haven't seen Big Ben knocked out for the season since he's been the starting quarterback there. And that's been partially good luck, and partially there's a lot of reason you put up to it. Not a lot of it is because he's doing these plyometrics in the offseason so he can be as pliable and durable as possible. Like, some guys are just built this way. And God bless him. I got nothing against it. I just don't. It feels to me like a pre-excuse. Like, when you guys see me, if you're wondering why of the quarterbacks, if we're lining them up from, like Cam Newton is at the front of the class as far as looks like impeccably, Cam, Russell Wilson, I would say Matt Ryan actually is a guy that's in really great shape. I'm going to be closer to Mike Glennon.
And here's why.
And here's why. I just don't know why he feels the need to say it. Like, I'm in the business talking for a living, so I hate to tell people not to talk, but I don't know why he feels the need to let us know I'm going to take it a little easy this offseason.
Yeah, there's just a couple things in this that just they're just kind of funny. First, Nick, do you know what it is like to be in an NFL locker room?
In a locker room?
Yeah.
Yes, not
okay,
as a player.
But do you know what it's like to play?
No.
No. Do you know what it's like to be 50?
No.
Okay, I know all that.
Okay.
I got it. But Ben's talking about an age that he's never been at. It's hard to be at this age. You've never been there. Mm-hmm. This is the first time you've gone to your 15th season.
Yep.
So he's already trying to bake in something as if, if I get hurt at this age, this is the time. But just concentrate on the game. He's a brilliant quarterback, great thrower of the football, can throw the ball to any parts on the field. And who else, besides a guy who likes to get attention, are we talking about after an offseason where he didn't get hurt? This is a question for a guy who got hurt, Aaron Rodgers.
You're right.
Should we be worried about Aaron Rodgers at this age?
You're right.
That would be legitimate. No, Ben didn't get hurt. But Ben is into the drama. I keep trying to tell you guys, and trying to talk to people about some type of fitness. That is not what Ben is there for.
Chris Canty, did you see anything in Roethlisberger's game last year that makes you think he's either lost a step, that he shouldn't be coming into this season without any concerns at all? I mean, should there be any reason for him whatsoever to either need to take a step back or to hold off a little bit?
Well, I'm not going to look at the performances that I had questions about last year and say that he's regressed as a quarterback, but I'm just understanding where this team is right now and recognizing the landscape of the AFC. If they're going to compete for a championship with a quarterback that's been there and done that twice, then this is the time that they've got to get it done in, because the skill position players that Ben Roethlisberger has at his disposal are arguably amongst the best in the league. Mm-hmm. Antonio Brown, best wide receiver in the league, arguably. Le'Veon Bell, best running back in the league, arguably. You look at Juju Smith-Schuster, a really good wide receiver, jumped on the scene last year. When I look at Ben Roethlisberger and the expectations on this team, he's got to help his team get to that next step. I did not see a quarterback that did that in the AFC divisional game against the Jacksonville Jaguars when he had the interception in the first quarter that led directly to a Jacksonville score, a Leonard Fournette touchdown run. Right. And then in the second quarter, the strip sack from Yannick Ngakoue that was ran in for a touchdown by Telvin Smith. Now, they only lost that game by 3 points. That's 14 points right there. So that's directly linked to mistakes that Ben Roethlisberger made on the field. So when I look at where he is right now in his game, I would like to hear a little more urgency in his voice about trying to get this team to compete at the highest levels and win a championship.
Because the window's been open for a long time. We talked about with LeBron it not being open yet unless they make a trade for another superstar. But Ben, the window has been open, and man, now they're close. Last year they lost to Jacksonville twice.
Yep.
All right.
And one of them, he threw 5 interceptions.
New England's got your
and
number.
And threatened to retire.
New England's got your number. But the thing I like about Ben, I like the way he played last season. Based on your question, yeah, I like the way he played. And I like the way he finished the season. Somehow he got re-energized after they had fired Todd Haley. So he was like, hey, I want to play several more years. I like that. But you can't come tiptoeing into the season after that being your end of the season comments.
And I would argue that this is, of all the years, Ben, however many years he has left, whether it's 1, 3, 5, whatever, I would argue this one is going to be his best chance to win a Super Bowl and maybe his most important year left. Here's why. We knew the Steelers had been on a natural progression over the last few years. They missed the playoffs. Then they went to the wild card round. Then they went to the divisional round. Then they went to the AFC Championship game. That led to last year. Last year, they had as much talent as they've ever had. They brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. They still had Martavis Bryant. AB's in the heart of his prime. L. Bell's in the heart of his prime. You have a game against New England that you can win the AFC, get the number 1 seed in the AFC, essentially. That game is lost, by the way, on a Ben Roethlisberger interception in the end zone. Everyone talks about take a knees or spike the ball, whatever. It's lost there. You then regressed. You lose you lose the playoff game to Jacksonville. You give up the opportunity for the 1 seed. We don't know if Bell's going to be there again. We don't know how long AB is going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Right.
We don't know how much longer, to be honest, Mike Tomlin's going to be there as the second longest tenured coach in football. This is a critical year, maybe the most critical year Ben has left. If there was ever a year he's like, you know what, I'm going to start doing what you said, I'm going to weigh my food, or I'm going to be more judicious about what I do in the offseason. Like, this would be the year. And instead of saying, no, it's actually the opposite. I'm a little older. So, yeah, I can't be working out as much as I used to, which I've always been this gym warrior. Like, it's just bizarre commentary.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Chris, thank you so much.
See you tomorrow.
As always, are you coming back tomorrow?
No, I'm not coming back tomorrow.
Definitely
I'm
not
coming back
coming
tomorrow.
back
I'm not
All right,
coming
get
back
out of here.
tomorrow.
Go to
All
Hilton
right,
Head.
and I can
wrong every
officially
time.
say, enjoy your time down in Hilton Head. We'll see you when we see you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. $10 says he's back tomorrow. Coming up, is the changing window already closing on LeBron in Los Angeles? More First Things First right after this. Hey, patience is a virtue. Just ask LeBron James. According to Bleacher Report's Howard Beck, those close to LeBron's decision to move to L.A. believe it was with the, quote, intent of building something long-term. This refutes the notion that he went to win immediately, or in other words, patience. Antoine Walker, what's the window for LeBron and Lakers to win a title now? Is it this coming year? Does he have more than a year?
No, I think he's going to need a year to build this team. If you look at LeBron and the history of his teams, that obviously when he went to Miami, they went to the finals, but it wasn't a championship team. Obviously, they lost to Dallas. But the roster on that team, they had a lot of old guys, Mike Bibby, Eric Dampier, Jerry Stackhouse that first year. That second year, they acquired Ray Allen, Shane Battier, Norris Cole. Championship team. I think now in L.A., you're going to have to figure out who's going to be the right pieces around them. I think that's why Magic is signing these guys to one-year deals. Obviously, you want Kawhi Leonard. He needs another star. It's going to be very difficult for him to win a championship without another star. This guy just got swept by Golden State, and obviously lost the year before that in 5. And if you look at those games, we all said he needed some help.
But you're talking about the front end. What about the back end of it? Like, so you're saying it doesn't open for a year. How long can it stay open, though? Because when you're talking about patience, you're talking about how long can LeBron's window stay open once it does?
It depends on what star he gets with him. And then obviously with Kawhi Leonard, it can stay open for 4 or 5 years because you got a guy of his skill level. If he's not able to get not able to get Kawhi Leonard, is it Kemba Walker? Is it Klay Thompson? Is it one of those guys? Do you have to make another trade and get a Damian Lillard? So those things come into play. Who's going to be the guy to run with him? And obviously it's got to be somebody young that can assume a role that can get him 20, 25 points a night. I think he plays better when he has help like that.
Right. Let's look at the career of Magic Johnson and the number of trips that he made to the NBA Finals. It was around him being drafted. Kareem was there. He was already established. But the Lakers have always, Dr. Buss, the late Dr. Buss, Jenny Buss's dad, man, he would go out and get other players to be able to complement that star. The biggest problem with the Lakers was their front office, the mismanagement, and their star in Kobe. People were not flocking to L.A. to be able to play with Kobe Bryant. So we don't know how long the window, with the charisma of Magic and LeBron, this should be a rare time that we see a guy at the end of his career where his window is able to stay open, because they should be able to attract a number of guys. And even at the end of this contract, if LeBron gets real smart, like Tim Duncan, and LeBron say he really want to play with his son or something, like he wanted to, man, take less money. Stay there in Los Angeles like Timmy did and keep building this. So, first of all, the window is not even open yet. So I can't determine when it's going to shut before it's determined when it's going to open, because it opens the day they get Kawhi.
Well, so listen, what we can do is recognize that there is no historical precedent for a guy being as good as LeBron was last year in year 15. And so it is hard to draw any type of comparison or conclusion about how long can he stay at this level. People need to understand, LeBron has already played far more minutes and far more games than Larry Bird did, than Magic Johnson did, than Michael Jordan did. Like, he's already, if he never played again, he will have played more basketball at the professional level than those guys. So let's go to the guys whose longevity is the most legendary in this league. Kareem and Karl Malone. Malone gets forgotten because he didn't win a title, but Malone was a top 5 player in this league in year 18. He broke what that's not a record per se, but he set the standard. Kareem had it. He was a top 5 player in year 17, and then he trailed off. He played longer than he trailed off. Malone played 19 years. 19th was not very good. It was with the Lakers, actually. So if the precedent right now is 3 more years, right, at the height of it, and there have always been LeBron, Karl Malone comparisons as far as body type, size. LeBron more skilled, obviously. LeBron, though, didn't play college ball. And technology is a little bit better. So could he still be a top 5 guy in year 20? Like, is that possible? Maybe. Like, this contract's going to take him to year 19 already. So it's, to me, that's a long way of answering your question. How long's the window? If the window with LeBron is the best guy on the team, is this contract.
I think the question is less, can LeBron play at the top of his game for another 1, 2, 3 years, and more what you brought up, which is, can LeBron, unlike Kobe, attract top free agent guys into L.A. this year, next year, in the window where they're going to have to win and compete against Golden State? Is LeBron that guy that can do it? I mean, we assume yes, but look, we're kind of in that place now. Are people flocking to play with him?
They're not flocking to play with him, but the one thing about...
But who's free?
But nobody's out there that probably LeBron wants to play with either, that he's actually going after. This is a different... You know, obviously, he always said he wanted to play with Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade. He tried that. Obviously not with Chris Paul, but he tried that with Dwayne Wade. They did that. They won some titles. He tried to bring them back. It didn't work. But I think
Paul George?
Yeah,
Paul George, the one guy.
Paul George would have probably been a good guy. And LeBron only fits in with certain type of guys anyway. So I think Kawhi Leonard's the perfect fit right now. That's the goal, to try to get Kawhi. If you don't get him, it's going to be a different road to getting back to the finals. We also got to remember, too, we just saying LeBron James, this will be the most difficult and hardest task for him in his career. He's in the Western Conference now.
Yes,
sir. So it's different. It's, during the season, you can now win 50 games and end up with a 4 seed or a 5 seed. So you don't want to play Golden State the second round. You know, you may end up playing them in the second round. That's the type of... So LeBron he has to come up and speak out on who he wants on his team. He has to build a team. We know it's going to take a year for him to build the right pieces around him to be able to battle against Golden State. He hasn't been successful these last 2 years with the team he had in Cleveland, so he can't do it with mediocre guys. He has to get another superstar and the right pieces to go against possibly 5 All-Stars. It was already tough enough against 4. Now you got to go against 5.
And what we've also seen, though, and this is where the window can potentially stay open once it does open longer, is when LeBron hasn't been playing in Cleveland, I'm not talking superstars, complementary pieces have not only wanted to come play for him, but play for him at a discount. Like when he's in those 4 years in Miami, the ability to fill out the roster was there. Now, it wasn't there as much in Cleveland.
No.
Cleveland, you had to trade for Korver. But part of that's the city of Cleveland. He's now in a more attractive place than Miami.
LA,
He's in Los Angeles. Like, so the reason that Magic, I think, this year it's only 1-year deals is assuming they do add another star. The guys that, not the Boogie Cousins level, but guys that will take less money to play for a mid-level. Guys that might want to, what Jamal Crawford's going to end up doing somewhere this offseason, which probably take the veterans minimum based on ability to win and lifestyle. Those types of guys, Los Angeles will be at the top or near the top of their list.
Another thing, playing in the Western Conference is messed up because in the East you can take a night off. LeBron can take a night off. In the West, you got to go play Utah. That's not going to be a night off. The Portlands of the world.
Yes.
You know, so you got to play them. So LeBron's got to exert even more energy this year than he had to do last year just to be a playoff team. But he does have some younger pieces, some younger guys that are young and athletic that he didn't have, obviously, in Cleveland.